Hello everyone, it's me, Kat. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching today's video where we are going to talk about the third and final book in this series. I don't want it to be over. We're going to talk about Forever My Saint by Monica James. Oh, what a series. Oh my gosh. I have tears in my eyes just thinking that it's over and knowing that it's over. You know, she is one of my favorite authors. There's my favorite book series ever that she has written. And then also I've done videos on the previous two books in this series. And so you might want to watch those videos first because, like I said, this is the final book, the final installment. So you will get spoilers if you watch this video. And to that point, I want to apologize because my point in making these videos is to give, you know, a little insight into the book, to give my opinion on the book, to be able to talk about my favorite books. So I do talk about the plot, I do talk about the characters, I do talk about the situations in the book, I do talk about my favorite lines and things that affected me and what I liked about it. So if I ever give a spoiler, it's not my intention. This is not going to be a spoiler, you know, video YouTube channel. But we're going to talk about the books. So that being said, I apologize if you get a spoiler in any of my videos. But just know going in how I like to talk about it, and so that maybe, you know, I want to entice you to read the book as well. But if I give away too much, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Sometimes I just get too excited. So with that being said, let's talk about Forever My Saint. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay, so this series is definitely different for Monica James. And I talked about it in the previous two videos as well. It's very dark. Very dark. And she warned us when she was writing this book that this was going to be the darkest of the three. She wasn't wrong. The whole series is pretty dark. But this one, yeah, it's pretty dark. And it's pretty, the emotion and the situations and how low people are willing to go in, you know, these characters are willing to go in this book is just astounding. And so, you know, just be a little bit warned about that. I loved it. To me, I don't have a problem reading it. It was amazing. It, you know, in a lot of ways, it helps me grow as a reader to read books that are outside of my comfort zone. I could totally handle this book. That I'm not saying it's out of my comfort zone, but that being said, you know, it's full of a lot of really deep, dark things that are so part of the story, and you need them to get the full scope of the journey. And so it's funny because she has an author's note at the beginning, and she says, I'm going to read it. She says, "Welcome to the beginning of the end, my angels. It's time to F this shit up." So she actually uses the Russian word for angels, which I'm not going to butcher by pronouncing, but that word, the Russian word for angels, is used throughout this whole book because that's what Saint calls Willow. And so for her to talk to us, the reader, as her angels was very sweet. Something that I talked about in the previous videos is that all of this happens to Saint and Willow in a very short period of time. So this book picks up literally right where Fallen Saint had left off, and it's only day 92. They've only known each other for 92 days, for 3 months, and all of this has happened, and all of this has happened to them and around them, and it's kind of crazy when you think about that. And eventually, farther in the story, at a pivotal point in the story, Willow stops, the chapters stop being numbered, which means that Willow stops kind of counting the days. And it was very meaningful to me. I picked up on that right away that that Monica had still put the days at the beginning of the chapters. There are many of the same characters that carry over into this book. There's, of course, Alec. There's Sarah. There's Ingrid. There's Max. There's Zoe. Who am I forgetting? Oscar. And what's the other one's name? I can't remember her name right now. The other, bad person with Oscar and Alec. Why can't I remember her name right now? Anyway, so there's a lot of characters that carry over that, the stories are very intertwined. We met them before. And Alec, I just, Alec is such a pivotal part of the story, of course. And I felt like I still didn't know if I liked him or not. I mean, I didn't like him. Of course I didn't like him. He's a bad person. But, oh my gosh, the way Monica writes him and what he does for Willow, and, as bad as he is, he has a little bit of honor that he shows once in a while. And he just frustrated the heck out of me. And, it's kind of an interesting part of this book is that Willow tries to see the good in everybody. In fact, Saint says that to her when they're talking about trying to address how, because Alec has made it no secret that he loves her and that he will do anything for her, even though he freaking had her kidnapped and bought her. But she's, she's confused how she feels about him too, because she wants to see the best in everybody, and she sees this honor in him sometimes, and this soft part to him that kind of is the whole thing that gets them in all this trouble, really. And, Saint calls her on it, and Saint sees that Alec loves her, and he doesn't know how he feels about it. Willow doesn't know how she feels about it. She's so conflicted. She mostly recognizes that he's a horrible person. Let's be real. But, it's interesting, Saint says to her when he's trying to address it with her and just either put the kibosh on it once or all, or just finally figure out how she feels about it. He gets some misinformation a little bit. And so he thinks he knows, but later on he wants concrete proof. And, he says to her, he said, I understand how you feel because you want to see the good in everybody. And that was the amazing part about Willow through all of this, where sometimes, she's such a badass and she's so strong, and oh my gosh, what she has gone through. And yet there's still this piece of humanity in the violence and in the destruction and in all of this that has come to the surface in her and around her, that she still tries to see the good in everybody. And I really liked that about her, because when we lose that in ourselves, how do we go on? So the premise that starts out with Forever My Saint is that Saint has been taken by Oscar, and this whole time Saint has been trying to work it out so that Willow can go home and he can set her free. Even though he loves her and they love each other, he always puts her first. He always wants the best for her. His point is to always get her away from all of this chaos and violence and a horrible world that he's living in. And by the way, living in because his sister, Zoe, who's, I don't like her at all. There's nothing, in my opinion, there was nothing redeeming that I could find in her except for her love for her brother. But her brother the whole point is that he's trying to save her, and that's how he got wound up, with Alec, because she's with Alec. So she frustrated me too. Alec and her, man, they were a match made in heaven or hell. But so the whole point is that he gets taken by Oscar, who is ew. Oscar is gross. He is disgusting. Yeah. And so they want to go, now they got to go save Saint from Oscar. And, you know, things shift a little bit. And Pavel comes in as kind of this hero. He's, you know, we've met him a little bit before. And Alec is not the king of the castle anymore, literally. And the playing field gets leveled with all of them, and they have to decide if they're going to work together. They have to get a plan together. Alec is used to, you know, being the boss, and he's not the boss anymore. And he has created havoc, and people are out to kill him. They're out to kill, you know, Willow. They're out to kill. Everybody's out to kill everybody. And so I thought that was really interesting to watch Alec have to be humbled and have to trust somebody else. And I liked how Pavel came in, just kind of took charge, and they all love Saint, and he's done good for all of them, and they want to help him. And most of all, you know, obviously Willow needs to get him out and needs to get him free, just like he always wanted to free her. So they kind of, you know, devise this plan. It's a horrible plan. I mean, their backs are against the wall. There is so much drama, so much action, so much chaos, really dark situations. And it was so much. It was so much. So the plan that they hatch to try to rescue Saint, I mean, you know, literally takes Willow right into the lion's den. And you know there's just nothing good that can come of this. And I loved that I had no idea where this book was going, what was going to happen. It's a good size book. It's a long book, so I knew there was going to be a lot to it, and there was a lot still to be had of their story. Yeah, and your heart is just broken for them, because is best laid plans, right? They're just like, well, we can try, and we might die trying, but we can try. And when they come across, when Willow is in Oscar's house, and you know he's this, he gave me the willies, and she's in his house, and she knows, you know, she is aware of what's going on, and he's playing mind games with her, and he brings her to see Saint, and Saint is broken. Not completely broken at that point, we find out, but he has been tortured, and, you know, everything horrible that you can, you know, imagine, almost. And, you know, he uses their love against them, of course, and he brings a situation about that is horrible, you know, and you just know that their hearts are breaking, and they're trying desperately to keep their wits about them and to not give in to the underbelly of this nasty man. But their choices are limited, and it's a horrible scene what happens. And I just, you know, my heart was in my throat the whole time. And, you know, what does Saint do? He saves her again. And, you know, their love was so, in amongst this chaos, their love was so pure. And there's the good in it all, right? There's the good that Willow kept seeing and kept feeling in amongst all the darkness. That their love was the light, and it's what kept propelling them forward. That scene when she first, you know, Oscar, I keep messing up their names, when Oscar first brings Saint to Willow in his house, and she knows, thinks she's prepared for what she's gonna see. It's obviously worse. Nothing could prepare you for the condition that he was in. but she said something very meaningful. The pain echoed in his eyes is reflective to the permanent smudge on my soul. What have we become? They have sunk so low, and they are trying to claw their way out. But like I said, what does Saint do? He tries to save Willow again. He puts her first again. At some point, they are reunited, but this is the lowest part of the book for me, is to read the destruction that happened to this man and, Saint, and to see that through Willow's eyes and see the pain that he's in and see what happened to him. And this was the part where I was so low because I just wanted them to get their happily ever after, and I just wanted it to be better, and I was so sad. And this big strong man, and he was lost, absolutely lost. Written, I mean, I hate to say so beautifully, but the story, it was written beautifully. He can't even look at her. He's so broken. And they're all there trying to support him, and he just can't. He is totally detached. And, Zoe is still a total bitch, and she blames Willow, even though ultimately she is the one to blame in all of it. If she would never have gotten involved with Alec and been the loose cannon that she was, Saint never would have gone to Russia to try to help her, which just steamrolled into all this other stuff, literally getting them to where they are that day. And there is tension between Willow and Zoe the whole time, not only because Alec is in love with Willow and Zoe is in love with Alec, but also because, Zoe doesn't want Willow for her brother either. She hates her. But Zoe, I couldn't stand Zoe. And rightfully so. And there's tension. And at one point, it just explodes. And the darkness that has been brewing inside of Willow this whole time comes out. And Zoe is the target. And I was so happy. I was rooting for Willow, and I was so happy. I was like, that's right. You take care of business. You give her everything she deserves. It was awesome. Interestingly enough, Saint has to step in that situation. And he's so calm. And he just says one word to her, and she stops. And she is horrified by her actions. On the same side of being like, you get what's coming to you. But she's so upset with herself. And she feels like when she acted like that, like the darkness won, but yet she embraces her darkness. And it's so sad because, like I said, Saint can't even look at her, but all he does is say one word to her in that moment, and she stops. That's their connection. And Willow doesn't know how to get to him, and she's trying, and she knows he needs time, but she's like, I'm not giving up on him, and they don't have time. And she takes matters into her own hands with him and becomes, part of the beginning of their relationship is the fact that she would never submit to him, that he was supposed to, break her for Alec, so Alec could use her basically as like a sex slave. And she would never submit to him, and she always was strong and always a fighter. And he loved that about her. And, but he wanted to exert his control over her because he himself was kind of like that. And she would never submit to him. So when she did submit to him, it was beautiful, right? And give over her control to him. So it was, you know, after she has completely lost control and kind of gone off the rails on Zoe, and Saint steps in and subdues her with one word. She's like, okay, now's my chance. Now I have to get to him, because he felt the control. You know, a light bulb goes off. He exerted the control in one word. She submitted. She stopped. And she uses that to her advantage. And she realizes that to get to him, he needs to be in control. And it works. And there's a extremely passionate, sexy, intimate, you know, situation that, you know what I'm trying to say, right? But I was crying through it. Crying through them. Yeah, because it was just that emotional. It got me. You know, it wasn't gratuitous. It was two people finding one another, trying to find one another, and trying to connect again. It was really beautiful. Saint says some things during that situation. And he says, only us, only this, forever. And that was him coming back to her in that moment. And that was really awesome. And at that point in the book, you know that that's exactly what they need to be able to connect again and to get him just a smidge, you know, turning towards her again and getting his focus and his mind off what happened to be able to become himself again. So there were these funny couple times in the book where Willow makes book references, which I thought was really funny. Yes, Monica, I picked up on them, and it was funny. I loved it. You know, it was like she was talking right to us as her readers in those moments, which were really great. And she said, I want to read one of them. She says, I want my happily ever after with him without a cliffhanger in sight. And I was like, same girl. No cliffhangers. This is it. It's got to come through now or never. And then she also said, the ending is like reading the last book in a trilogy, anticipating a big climactic twist, only to be disappointed to uncover the hero and heroine go riding off into the sunset and live happily ever after. Where's the fun in that? And I was like, okay, really? What are you gonna do to them now, Monica? Jeez, I want them to have a happily ever after. They need their happily ever after. When you think the action is over in this book, it's totally not. There is more drama. There is drama literally until the last couple pages. Quite diabolical as a reader, already emotional because of the book and knowing it's ending, by the way. But in the best freaking way. This is why I love her. She always gives you every emotion, great story, totally believable, absolutely amazing. One of my favorite things that Willow says in the whole series, and that's kind of saying a lot for me. I'm going to read it to you. I will always be his captive, because although I'm no longer bound, the invisible manacles around my heart bind me to him always. From the moment we met, there was always a tangible electric pulse between us, and now I know what it is. At first it was fear, but now it's nothing but irrevocable love. It just, I mean, we know she loves him. She knows she loves him. He knows he loves her. But it was worded so beautifully, because they started out by him kidnapping her and like putting her, you know, binding her and taking her away. So to have that turned into something, those words and that feeling that she felt when she was kidnapped turned into something beautiful, and wanting to be bound to him and wanting her heart to be, you know, chained to him was really, really beautiful. And then something that Saint said that I loved as well was, but as days turned into months, I came to realize our story would be a tragedy only if we let it, and I was sick of tragedies. Oh, see, I can't even. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I so highly recommend this series. This is why I love being a reader. I get to escape into these stories, into this whole other world, and live there for a little while. And it's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Monica, for writing these amazing, amazing stories. And then, you know, a little tease I will give you is that we get a little tease at the end of this book. She gives us a little secret about another book she's writing. And I'm not going to spoil that I'm just going to say, you know, there was a bunch of characters I didn't like in this book because they're not likable people. Well, he's getting his own book. I don't want to say anything else. Except thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching the video. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Monica, for writing an amazing, amazing series. You know I adore you. I adore your writing. Go get this series. You have to. Go get it. I'm going to put the link below for all of them. It's amazing. I will see you soon, guys. Thanks for watching.